Hello everyone, my name is Kenton Kivestu. I'm an ex-Googler and ex-BCG consultant and the founder of RocketBlocks, an online platform that helps candidates prepare for interviews. In today's RocketBlocks mini lesson, we're going to be talking about product management interviews, and specifically we're going to be talking about analytics questions that you get in those interviews. And what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the different flavors of analytics questions that you might expect in a product management interview, show a sample analytics question, and then we're going to jump into the interviewer mindset and we're going to look at answering that question from the interviewer's perspective and think about the key questions that the interviewer is going to be asking him or herself when they're evaluating a candidate answering an analytics question. So let's go ahead and jump in. Great, so now let's talk about what one of these analytics questions actually looks like. And the first thing I want to do is talk about some of the different flavors of analytical questions. So one common flavor is the estimation question. And in these type of questions, a prompt is given and then the candidate basically has to do some math and make some assumptions to estimate the amount of time something may happen. In a product management interview, this might be like the number of photos that are uploaded to Facebook on any given day or to Instagram. And then you have to go through an exercise to estimate that number. So that's one example. Another type of analytical question that gets asked is what type of metrics would you use to measure the success of product X or product Y? How would you think about quantifying that product and measuring whether it's doing well or poorly? And it forces you to really think about, okay, what are the types of things you would need to measure to see if the product is succeeding? So that's a second type. And then a third type is a executional analytics question. So these are the type of questions that are like, hey, something is going wrong in the product. How would you investigate what's happening? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We'll actually look at a sample question. But those are the three sort of flavors of analytical questions that come up a lot in product management interviews. Now, these types of questions, if you think about what type of skills they're testing, what are the underlying skills that someone is trying to suss out when they ask a question like this? It's basically a little bit of quantitative skills and logical reasoning skills and sort of tactically thinking through some sort of specific problem. So this is a little bit different than the product sense and strategy questions, which are really testing your product design ability, your sort of product vision, product strategy, think at a high level, and then maybe, think about sort of how components fit together, which is a different skill set than what is being tested in the analytics questions. Okay, so now let's think about a sample question in particular, and I'm going to pick a analytics question with an executional focus. So here's the sample question. Imagine you're a product manager at a leading social media app that features short form looping videos. And you walk in one morning and look at your metrics dashboard and find that DAU, which stands for daily average users, is down 9.7% week over week. So quick side note, DAU, which stands for daily active users, is a really common metric that consumer internet companies like Facebook, Google, YouTube use to report on the level of engagement they're seeing from their users on a daily basis. However, since they report on these numbers often on a quarterly basis or something aggregated in a larger period than a day, they report on, say, DAU on a quarterly basis. So if you look at Facebook's numbers here, they're reporting that in Q4 of 2019, they had 1.657 billion daily active users in the quarter. So essentially, what they're saying is throughout Q4 2019, the average number of daily active users they had was 1.657 billion. So it's a daily number, but when you see it reported like this, it's the average of that daily number in the particular time period that's being reported. So the current number, if you compare it to the same number a week ago after the same number of hours have passed, is down 9.7% week over week. So how would you investigate what's going on and what are the key issues you would look at? Okay, so that's the sample analytics question we're going to look at. Now we're going to go to the next section and we're going to put ourselves in the interviewer's perspective and we're going to think about what questions is he or she asking himself or herself as they're assessing a candidate's performance on this question. Okay, great. Now let's put ourselves into the interviewer mindset and think about the questions that they're going to be asking him or herself as they're listening to the candidate's answer. The first question is going to be, does the candidate have a structured approach to solving this problem? And the reason that's important is that a structured approach is logical, it's easy to follow, and it demonstrates that they've got a repeatable process that they can use on the job. So an unstructured approach would be if the candidate hears a question and just starts, exploring different rabbit holes willy-nilly. A structured approach would look like something like, well, saying, okay, if DAU is down, maybe there's internal drivers of that, something like that's gone wrong inside the product, and external drivers, like, for example, world events or holidays that might be distracting people and causing them not to log in. Okay, great. So that's a structured approach. That's the type of thing the interviewer is going to be looking for. The second question they're going to be asking themselves is, within those buckets that get proposed in any given structure, can the candidate formulate credible hypotheses to explore? So if you think about that internal bucket we were discussing, a hypothesis within it may be like, well, maybe we did something and that's causing people not to log in. Okay, that might be true, but it's pretty vague. It's hard to say, okay, how exactly are we going to test that? It does give some indication of what to look for, but a much better credible hypothesis might be DAU is driven in part by us sending push notifications. And if for any reason we've stopped sending push notifications or are sending less push notifications, either on purpose or due to a bug, that might be driving the DAU decline. So that is a really credible hypothesis, and it's something that's clear. It has a clear action that we can go look at and investigate. So that's the second key thing. Now, the third thing they're going to be thinking about is, once you have some credible hypotheses, can a candidate formulate and define specific metrics and pieces of data that they're going to look at to help prove or disprove those hypotheses? So in the push notifications case, if that's your one of your hypotheses and you want to test that, saying, yeah, let's go look at push notification data, that's not super specific, and it's not clear if you're going to actually get to the right answer or not. And especially in modern product management environments where people are generally swimming in dashboards and data, you want to show that you can be very specific and targeted about what you're going to look at to prove your hypotheses or disprove them. So a better way to do it would be say, okay, what I want to do is I want to look at the number of push notifications sent out on a daily basis every day for the last 2 weeks and compare it to our DAU numbers for the last 2 weeks and see if we see a strong correlation between our DAU declining and the number of push notifications we're sending out. Now, there may be other things you want to look at. There may be ways to go into that deeper. You could set up certain ratios, but that is the start of a very specific set of data that you can go retrieve and look at that's going to help you figure out whether that hypothesis is true or not. Okay, the last part of this, the last question that the interviewer is going to be thinking about is, how comfortable is this candidate working with data? Do they have a strong ability to, say, define specific metrics, and do they seem like they would be comfortable working with an engineer and collaborating with that team to say, hey, can you go pull X data? Or can you make sure that we're logging this metric and this in the future so that we have access to it if we need to do this type of investigation? Or do they have a strong sense of how they would go pull and retrieve this data themselves? Or are they going to have to rely on, say, another team to get every piece of information they need to run or complete any sort of investigation? So those are the 4 key questions that an interviewer is going to be asking him or herself as they're going through and assessing a candidate on an analytics question. Okay, one final thought I'll leave you with as you're thinking about analytics questions in product management interviews. Every company is a little bit different on how they like to test this skill set. So a company like Google, you may face one of every different flavor of analytics questions we were talking about. Some estimation questions, some execution-oriented questions, some metrics, what would you measure questions. Whereas other companies do really like to focus on certain areas. For example, Facebook is really known for focusing on the executional type of analytics questions where they really want to watch a candidate go through the process of investigating a decline or something going on with certain metrics and see how they respond and sort of peel the onion back on that problem. So thank you so much for watching. If you're not a subscriber yet already, there is a big red button below. We've got tons of great content both on product management and consulting coming out on a weekly basis. So thanks for watching and have a great day.